Hello, friends of the pod. Welcome to another episode of Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara, presented by Brooks Running. We have such a fun show lined up today. Heated conversation to be expected. We're bringing on a guest, a rare guest, and we just want to see if there's some trash talk available here or just recap a really great year. I'm just going to get right into it. Welcome, Dakotah, and let us know your new last name, proper way of saying it. I've heard this a few times, but I'm going to let you tell our audience.
Yes, I am Dakotah Popehn now. It's like propane without the R.
Love that. Love that.
Dakotah in the house. So Dakotah, we're so excited to talk to you. I'm going to be honest. We've talked about having you on a few times and then, just stuff gets in the way. But after the epic trash talking between you and Des, I actually heard you're going for her 50K record. We're like, we have to have Dakotah on. You've just had this incredible year. It's been so fun to see you believe in yourself and bet on yourself. But it seems like you've had fun the whole time. We're like, we need to talk to her. We got to get her on.
I appreciate you having me on. I get it all the time on Instagram that people want me on here so me and Des can fight in person, I guess.
This is pretty weak, you guys. Let's just go at it.
No, I feel like it's been hyped up. It's on the roads, right? Once the start gun goes off, mortal enemies for sure. Yeah. But we got to take it all the way back to the dog party. Like all the dogs got along, all the family members, spouses now got along. There wasn't much of trash talk available, but now different story because you've just had an amazing year and it would mean so much more to beat you at this point. So, the age graded thing was something that we just came up with. But I like how you went into that with like just a stack of hard marathons on your legs. So if we can sort of keep that like cadence going, I think that would be helpful for my chances in beating you moving forward.
Yeah, I think age graded is out the window, especially if we're running harder courses. You cannot convince me on an age graded again.
Yeah, you didn't get much say in the last one, so I'm gonna say that might stick moving forward.
Okay, well, you guys are the most pathetic and cute trash talkers. Now that it's face to face, you guys are like, I love you. Okay, so wait, I want to go back.
I do feel like that we were pretty good about that in every pod, and that's kind of why this conversation is happening, because we'd be like, enemies, rivalry, but also like Dakotah's the nicest person in the world. So that
we had a whole pod where we only talked about Dakotah, remember? After the Olympic trials. So we love
I mean, I didn't even know we were rivals until I heard you say it on this pod. And it was I think after Orlando when we met at that bar. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm best friends with Des and Kara. This is so fun. And then I listened to another pod and Des was like, I want to crush Dakotah. And I was like, maybe not best friends.
That's how it is. That's how it is.
Who is your rival? Because everyone has that person that you're like, I would never fucking lose to so-and-so. And obviously that's gone now because you crushed me most of this year. But who's your rival? Who's your person that you're like, are you not ready in your career to say that out loud? Because we can text afterwards.
No. I do lose to her often, and that's why she's my rival. I think Nell. I really just every time I'm racing Nell, I'm like, I just want to beat you so bad. Yeah, but she's great. I love her.
That's the point. Like you have the person who's really good, and you're like, it means more if I can beat her because she's really good.
And it's only because you respect each other, right?
100%.
So it's like if you didn't respect her, you'd be like, whatever.
No respect.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay, so I know that you've probably told this story a million times, but I just want to go back to February and I want to go back to your mindset. And I want to know, because obviously the way you ran that race, you believed you could be on that team. When was it in your mind like, I can make that Olympic team? Because you've had a lot of success and you've been good, but that was like a new level to be at to make the Olympic team.
Yeah, I don't think there was like this one specific day or workout that was like, oh yeah, I'm ready to make the team, but just a really, really great build in Florida going into it, like hitting times I never thought possible or had never seen before. And after like every workout, I would text Montana because he was still living up here and be like, I think we're going. Like, I think we can make this team. And I left it in my log a couple of times telling my coach, Chris Lundstrom, like, I think you should look at plane tickets. Like, they're going to be cheaper now than they will be in a few months. Like, I don't know. every workout seemed to go so well. And I really didn't have any that I looked back at and thought like, oh, I wish that one had gone better. So it was just a culmination of all those coming together.
Was there a difference in your training? Was there a difference in things you were doing? I feel like I looked at your Strava and I was like, holy shit, like this is a new level. Like some of the things you were running were just pretty mind blowing. Like, was there anything training wise that you like made a big shift? It seemed like maybe mileage bumped up, but then also just like you've stacked a lot of marathons together. Was combination, or do you have a thing that you were like, we're intentionally going to change this?
Yeah, we did bump up to 130, but I don't think bumping up 5 miles really is like a game changer. I think I hate saying this because I love like a New York and a Boston, but I'm much better when I'm training for flatter marathons because I can get a lot more speed under my legs. The hills just beat me up so much. So that part
Which
is
is
tough.
ironic
And I
since
think
you crushed the Olympic marathon, just going to say.
Every broken clock is right
Right.
twice a day. But I just think because we were training for a flat marathon, I was just able to get a lot more speed work in and not be killed by hills.
Have you gone back to the track in a long time? Like, what are your track credentials? Are you
I
curious
literally don't
about
know.
that?
Are you curious what you could do like in a 10 now?
Not at all. I mean, I don't mind working out on the track, but we did do one track 10K in the middle of COVID because it was just like the only way we could test our fitness. And I got like 2 laps in and I was like, fuck this, like, what? Get me out. And people were cheering and I was running so bad. I hate that you're so under a microscope on a track where like on the roads when it's bad, people just notice for like a second.
That's fair.
Yeah, no interest in going back on the track.
Okay. That I mean, I respect that. I think it's fascinating that I bet you probably have some really great times and you will just never know. But as long as if it shows in the event that you really like. So do you see, I'm getting out of order here. Sorry, Carrie, you can cut it in anytime, but do you see a flat fast? Like what type of shape do you think you were in this year if you had to put it on like a Chicago or a London or a Berlin or something?
Yeah, I think I got in pretty darn good shape. I hate putting out a number because then like when you don't come close to it, it's like, oh, what does that even mean? But I don't know. I think I could have ran like a low, maybe a 221, a 222.
I think that's totally fair. Look what you did at the Olympics compared to all the women around you. You know what I mean? It's like you're not just like pulling some number out of like thin air. I mean,
Right.
you like compare to what you've done to other women who are around you and what they've run throughout the year. I mean, I think that's
very reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
would
I
think.
was going to say I was in like 220 shape, so that pencils out.
Oh, yeah, of course, of course. Actually, I was in 214 shapes.
Yeah. Makes sense. I am curious about the Olympic Trials Marathon. You know, you were up front for a lot of it. I love that about you. This is why I think I've messaged you this. I believe you will land on a podium at a major because you have to sort of have this belief that they don't have anything I don't have. And I think sometimes we talk ourselves out of racing in the moment because we're like, oh, it's too fast or this or that. One of the things that I think is really special about you is you're just like, head down. I'm just going to get in it. And yeah, you still run your own race. Don't get me wrong. You're not just like giving your race to other people. But I think you also have to have this belief that like, I deserve to be here. I belong. And I see that in the way that you race. But you're racing the Olympic marathon trials. You're in the front for a long time. You drop back for a little bit. What were those last few miles like, right? Like there was still kind of a group fighting for that third position. And then you cleared that group. What was going through your mind at that time?
Oh my gosh, when they took off and it's been so long now, I don't remember the times, but they dropped like 20 seconds faster all of a sudden. I was like, oh shit, like there goes a team. I'm not on it. And like, there's no way I can sustain that. Like, that is too rich for my blood for sure. So I was pretty bummed for a little bit, but that was like maybe around mile 20. And then I kind of got into my head, like my coach had mentioned, something like that will most likely happen. Don't overreact, don't go with it and burn yourself out and hope that they basically just hope that they made a mistake kind of. And of course it kind of worked out that way. But as I was passing them and then finally went into third, passing like Sarah Hall and Betsy Sena, women that I really look up to and haven't always put myself in the same category as, I was like, oh my God. Like I had to continue to be like, you have to just finish this mile, get through this mile and then think about the next one. Like you both been in that position where you cannot start celebrating at 24 because a lot can happen. And Jess was mowing me down for sure. And yeah, I was just trying to put one foot in front of the other and hope to God nobody came up on me.
It was so funny because we were at commercial and then NBC was like, Kara, you can't freak out if she makes this team. You have to call it evenly. I was like, damn it. I'm so excited. Yeah. This is kind of a personal question and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but we both lost parents. And I'm just curious, like, for me, when I made my first Olympic team, I was so excited, obviously, but it was a time when I like really missed that my dad wasn't able to experience that. And did you have any of those reflections? Like, what would your mom think? Would she have just been going insane over all of this?
I don't mean this, and like I mean this in a completely joking manner, but I would have killed her on that day if she hadn't already been dead. Like that would have been everything for her. No, I definitely shed tears over that. I mean, I shed tears over that almost after every race. She used to be the first call I would make because she didn't care. Like, a lot of people you call or you talk to and they're like, oh, how'd you do? And, you tell them your results, but she was always like, I'm so proud that you just even started this race or whatever. So no, it's super emotional. I always say she has the best seat in the house. So she gets to see every step of the race, but yeah, I'd much rather be able to give her a hug at the end.
Yeah. But she would have been so freaking excited.
Oh my gosh. I'm like pretty introverted and quiet, and she was the absolute opposite. She would have been screaming. She would have actually embarrassed me probably. So, she would have been super proud.
Yeah.
Any more there, Kara? Do you want to go into that?
I'm like getting emotional. I feel connected to you in that way. And I just feel like I know she is watching you, but I just felt for you. I have felt for you because you've had this big breakthrough. Your mom was the one that encouraged you to run, and I know what that's like. And I just feel connected to you. I'm sorry, I'm making this about me, but I just really was like, there's a lot of stuff there that unless you've been there, you don't feel that or understand it, And so I wanted you to just be able to quick say about your mom because I know she would have been so excited for you.
Yeah, she would have for sure. She was definitely always proud of me. I mean, I dropped out of my first marathon and I called her and I was like, screw this, Mom. Like, I'm not making a living doing this. And she was the one who was like, no, you're going to try again. And that's when I went to Grandma's and qualified for my first trials. So I mean, in so many ways, she's the reason that I made an Olympic team. And it's a bummer she didn't get to share it with me because she always felt like she would say, I don't know what you're going to do, but you're going to do something crazy in this world. Like, you're going to be a doctor. Or you're going to be the CEO of a company. I don't think she ever guessed Olympian, but she would have been pretty excited to see this come through.
Very cool.
That's cool. I think we won't make you go too far down that rabbit hole, but so I think Sarah Lorge Butler did a great article on that, and you're really opened up about it and the whole your upbringing, and I think everyone should go check that out. We can put a link in the show notes, and I just think it's cool that you are willing to share that and talk about difficult things, but also difficult things that define us and change us and help us grow and become stronger. So,
well, to piggyback on that, I'm talking to two women who wrote powerful books about hard things in their lives. So, I mean, it's because of people like you sharing their hard stories that it made it easier for me to want to share my story too.
That's cool.
So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, this is just like
not necessary to say, but very nice. Yeah.
Okay, Dakotah, we want to talk about the Olympics, but I have to ask you, I don't need you to tell me any racing plans, but are you prepared to go to Duluth and Grandma's marathon weekend and how everyone is going to like lose their fucking minds when you show up this year? I mean, I'm just assuming you'll be there in some capacity because I know Zach Schneider pretty well. And I'm like, I know he's trying to get you there. Are you ready for that kind of thing? I mean, you've already been experiencing it, but yeah, is that wild for you? Like people are going to go crazy when they see you.
It's so wild. Like I've been going up to Duluth for Grandma's marathon weekend. I don't know, like 5-6 years. And every year it's just got like a little crazier. And I did go this last year and it was like, I couldn't go get lunch without getting bombarded. And it was like it was the busiest weekend I've ever had. So I can't imagine what this next one will look like, but I don't know. It's just so special in Duluth that I really love it. 'Cause most of it's, Minnesotans or people who've followed me for a long time. And I don't know, it just kind of feels like going home when I'm there.
And I think for the marathon itself, like you've really validated it because you have run it so many times and then you're having all this success, but you still respect the Grandma's Marathon. You've really validated it as one of the great marathons in the United States. So I don't even work for Grandma's, but thank you for validating it.
Yeah, I mean, I am not paid to say this, but it's the best marathon on the planet, in my opinion. So I don't know, Des, have you ever come up there for Grandma's?
I ran the half. I could only manage half of it.
Okay, well,
half is good.
Maybe 2025, a little showdown.
Yeah,
there we go. Oh boy. Interesting. Okay, I got a fifth half mile. I think I have to take care of, and then we'll just work backwards from that.
Yeah.
How has it been managing that sort of new kind of world that you're in, where you're the face of the sport and you're doing more, you're having more requests from events, and like one, just being in front of people and hanging out with the running community, but also like managing travel and figuring out how to prioritize training and events and all of that. Has that been a challenge? Do you love it?
So challenging. I think honestly, it's a skill to be learned that I have not mastered yet. Like I said, I'm definitely introverted. So going to, like New York, which I love getting to interact with the running community, but also it can be very draining for me and exhausting. So I don't want it to sound like I'm complaining, but there's just a balance that needs to be learned from it. And I'm getting there for sure.
Do you feel like the baby steps you've made in Duluth have kind of exposed you a little more, or has it been like just a flood now?
Yeah, it definitely helped, but I think I always say like the transition from when I was not an Olympian to being an Olympian, that was so whiplash for me. Like I've never experienced being so busy in a running manner that way, where I was like, oh, I have to start telling people no. Before, if somebody asked me to be on their podcast, I'd be like, yeah, of course. But I started to learn vitamin N from Kipchoge.
Good for you. I mean, like it is such a huge change, right? Like you're just climbing the ladder, doing everything right, and then it's like you don't. It's a fine balancing act, and you'll probably never perfect it, but you'll get a little better of like, okay, what's helping me relate to my fans and staying in touch, but also then what's actually taking away from my running, which is what you're getting paid to do and what you love to do, right? And so it's kind of hard, but you have to learn kind of like, well, that feels like it's going to help give me like fill my cup, but that feels like it's going to drain it. And you have to kind of learn that. And it's hard. You have to learn how to say no. And it's tough, especially like you're from Minnesota. You're like always nice. And
I'm a people pleaser to the max. So it's really difficult to say no to things. And especially like, I feel like I have FOMO too. So if I say no to that, am I missing an opportunity or whatever? But, yeah, I mean, I mostly enjoy it. It can be tiring for sure.
Yeah. Something that hasn't changed in a while, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, is your coach and your training partners. You've kind of been with, is it Team Minnesota for a while now?
Yeah, we're Minnesota Distance Elite now.
Okay. And I know Annie Frisbee and you kind of match up really well. And that's actually a really good rivalry, unlike ours, which is very unbalanced, favoring Dakotah.
Whatever.
What's that been like? What was it like training for the trials with her? And then how did things change afterwards? Was there any how did you guys manage that?
Yeah, I feel like just Annie and I in general were super similar. So she's truly now like one of my best friends, which works really well. Because at practice, it is really, like you said, balance. Like she's a speed demon like no other. She'll drop like 67s in the 400 and just leaving me in the dust. And then I can pull her along on long runs. And then race day, it's like a similar rivalry. Like I want her to do really well because I care about her deeply, but I just want to do better than her just slightly. So that's been really fun, just training with her and getting to live with her in the winters. We usually do training camp together. It's been great. But Minnesota Distance Elite is super, super great because we don't have a title sponsor. We don't have a shoe company or anything. Our only sponsors are really like physical therapy, stuff like that. So we don't have a lot of commitments. So me making the team has only been helpful. There haven't been any sort of conflicts, which I know happens. they've been really supportive of any sort of sponsorship I've wanted to pick up or pursue, and there's not been any issues yet, and I don't anticipate there to be any. Our coach Chris Lundstrom's like the most even keeled and chill guy ever, so it would be pretty tough to like create any sort of like waves on this team.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I feel like I remember when Chris was running, and just like in general, that group has been so solid. So it's been fun to watch them grow.
Yeah. We only meet 3 times a week, and all of us except for I think Annie and I and Kaylee Logue now have full-time jobs. So I feel like we're very down to earth, like the blue collar type of runner team. So I don't know. It makes a good balance.
Talk to us about your work a little bit, because not all people who make the Olympic team, especially in the marathon, which takes so much time and running, have jobs outside of that. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I made the Olympic team, I was working full time up until that Thursday before the race as a paralegal, which is a great job for a runner because it's remote and you kind of like whenever you get your work done, you can kind of clock off for the day. So as an efficient person, I feel like I was able to just kind of rattle off all my stuff and then go get my running in. Since then, though, like just because my life got so busy, I had to put something down, and being a paralegal made sense because I didn't want to go to the Olympics and be like, oh, I really wish I had more time to train or go see my physical therapist or PT, yeah, whatever. So I did end up quitting that job. But it was a very clean break. They're big runners and supporters of the sport. So I think they saw the writing on the wall when I crossed the finish line.
They actually posted your job.
Yeah, they're like, we know she's leaving. Yeah. Talk to us about Paris. By the way, a huge thank you to you, Montana, because you gave Adam and Colt your volleyball tickets, and they had beach volleyball tickets later that day, but it wasn't for U.S. match, so they got to see the U.S. because of you guys. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
But tell us about Paris. I mean, Des and we had like a little dream come true where we got to call your race for NBC. We got to see you so much. You ran so great. You finished so strong. Talk to us about that experience, like whatever you want to share.
Yeah, it's like a whirlwind. People keep asking me about it. I'm like, oh, I did live in Paris for like a month. I like forget that happened. It was so amazing. I didn't stay in the village except for one night, the night of opening ceremonies. So I didn't really get like the full village vibes, but it was like the perfect amount because I could come and go as I wanted. And so I just lived really low key in honestly a really stuffy, small Paris apartment with no AC and windows that barely opened. And we lived right above a pub. So at like 11 o'clock every night, people are smoking and singing happy birthday and drinking. So we had some good laughs. I would choose a different location or be more picky next time, I think, trying to find some AC because that was pretty brutal. But everything about it was perfect. I got to meet Anthony Edwards, who's a big Timberwolves player, and I'm a huge fan. So at that point, I was like, I don't care what happens here. I've done everything I came to do. But super special to enjoy my first Olympic experience, I think, because I don't know, you just don't want to walk away and have any regrets because you just don't know if it's going to happen again in 4 years or not.
Yeah, I felt like watching from afar that you squeezed all the juice out of the lemon, but there wasn't like you didn't see any performance dip because of it. It was like if the saying is capture the electricity of the event without being electrocuted by it, and you like just rode that line perfectly. It looked like from afar.
Yeah, I did go see a soccer game and then one night of track, the women's 100-meter finals. But I was really ambitious to think I could go to that volleyball game too. But I'd like to say I'm pretty chill before a big race, but I was starting to be like not chill. I was like, if I'm around 100,000 more people, I'm going to get sick.
Yeah. But, I mean, talk to us about that race because you just told us earlier you like the speedy, flat stuff. You're getting ready for what was billed and has been talked about as the hardest marathon course ever of any sort of marathon that mattered. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how was that? Like mentally, how did you say, okay, I'm getting ready to do this thing that I would prefer it to be flat and fast. It's not. How did you even just mentally shift to be ready for that?
I think it was really important that I went out there and I saw the course before. I went in like April with Fiona, and just so I could really understand, like I can't like half-ass this course. Like I have to go into training every single day with this course in mind. And honestly, I was just so darn scared of having a bad Olympic experience that every day I went out the door, like I have two ways I can go. I can go a flat way or I can go a hilly way. So just being really, really choosy about going the hilly way, I guess, and getting uncomfortable in, what I dislike, I guess. And what I would say is my weakness, or I used to say, I think I can be my strength if I train for it correctly. And we're really lucky to have strength coaches who I basically outlined the race for them. And he was like, all right, here's exactly what we're going to do. I was pulling sleds and pushing sleds and getting in the gym quite a bit, which, I mean, maybe after New York, I've just got to do some burpees, apparently. that seemed to work pretty well for Des, but I don't know if it would work for me too.
You could try it. If you want to join the challenge, it's a year long. We can meet up next year at this time and we can check in.
Okay.
Let me know. We can make it a contest, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, if it's a contest, I will win. So.
Yeah. Do you feel like the course lived up to the hype? Like, was it as hard, or did you mentally make it into this giant and then you got out there and you're like, oh, I'm fit, I'm tapered, and I know how to manage it?
So it was really hard. There's no denying that. But I do think, and even after, I was like, oh, this is way harder than New York or Boston. But the more I think about it, and after recently running New York, I do think it is easier in some ways because you get up that last big hill at like 30K or whatever. And then it's all downhill and or flat. So I guess like similar to Boston that way. But that downhill was so long. I ran a sub 5 minute sub 5 minute mile downhill. And
yeah, but was it relaxing? It didn't look like a relaxing 5-minute mile.
Yeah, my back is still racked from that.
Right. I mean, it looked like, I hear what you're saying, like, oh, well, we got time back on the downhill, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm getting time from the way I saw it on the screen. And granted, I wasn't running. It seemed like you guys, like, arms were out, like you were having to be very athletic in that downhill portion.
100%. Like honestly, every step I was like, please just stay on your feet. Do not let my quads give out. I was like genuinely worried about falling at certain points because your legs are beat up by then. Yeah. But that's where I have to go back and thank my strength coach because I do feel like my quads were just really ready to take that beating and then like run fast on the other side of it. I think if you weren't prepared and you hadn't seen the course and known like just how bad that downhill was and you didn't work on your quad strength, you would have been screwed for sure. But I mean, just thinking about New York and how darn hilly it is, like those last 6 miles, it's nice to just get into a rhythm like it was in Paris.
I think you like keep referencing New York, and I think that Olympic marathon was still in your legs. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I feel like everyone that ran the Olympic marathon, nobody, like, it's not like everybody bombed, but nobody had it in that second half as much as we thought that they would. I just want to say, like, out loud, like, it wasn't just Dakotah. It was like everybody who ran the Olympic marathon was like Sharon, Helen, Tamara, like everybody didn't have like the part where they thought they would. And I think you guys ran the Olympic marathon. It was faster than everyone thought it would. Everyone handled it better than we thought they would. And I think we were like, oh, it wasn't that bad. But I mean, it was.
It was really hard. I usually take a week off after my marathon. So on like the 8th day, I'm usually going for my first run. And I went for like 1.5 miles and stopped because I was like, I'm still sore from Paris. Like my quads were still incredibly beat up. I got home and it felt like I had just finished a marathon all over again. Like that was easily the hardest marathon on my body. And it like jacked up my SI joint from all that downhill. It was very, very difficult for sure on the body, which I'm thankful I have good PT and body work. But
how did you get motivated to go do New York? Were you ever just like, nah, you know what, I'm good? Or were you just like, screw it, I'm signed up, let's put some gravy on the year?
Yeah, I went into it. I mean, I ended up being disappointed, which I is a fault of mine. Like I can't just be happy ever for some reason, but
it's like you're
I
competitive.
went into it being like, I can't lose. Like even if it's the worst race of my life, I'm here to just kind of have a victory lap, and I'd have FOMO sitting at home anyway, so I may as well be in the race.
Yeah,
That's
I think
why
that's great.
I think the fact that you're just like, I still end up disappointed. Like that's why I really think you're going to end on a podium. Like you are going to get on a podium because you are having fun. You are enjoying it, but it's like, you're just so hungry.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's a plus side about how badly not badly New York went, but how average New York was for me. Is now I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go kick some butt in my next one. I hope Des and I line up on whatever marathon she's thinking.
I'm nervous that you guys are going to be fighting for like the third podium spot. I'm like, that would be the worst thing that could ever happen. Like you guys are fighting for like the third place in some major marathon. And we're all like, fuck.
Like it's like a win-win, but also a lose-lose.
Oh, yeah.
America, do it for America.
Yeah. Which when Des was coming up behind me in New York, somebody warned me. They said, Des is coming. And I was like, I can't do anything about it. I was like, I love that everybody else is so invested in this.
Normally I would say something or like give you a little nudge, and I was like, she's in the hurt locker. This isn't.
You were like, come on. You said something nice, I'm sure.
But I've the last time I ran New York was in 22, and I suffered from like 17 to the finish, and I just know how hard those miles are, and you're trying to stay focused. You're trying to keep your legs under you. And I'm just like, she's fighting right now. And like, we're doing the same thing, but when you're feeling it on your legs, it's just like, leave me alone. Just leave me alone. And that course, I think it's like when you have the bad one there, like the frustrating one, the course feels so much more daunting. And then I went back this year and I was like, oh, it wasn't as hard as I remembered. So
I'm going to have to go back and get that experience.
Don't let that get in your head. I mean, I think just the number of marathons you ran this year is obviously weighing on you. And I don't think people talk about like the emotional fatigue enough as well. Like that's a real thing. Like I feel like the post-Olympic slump is like a year-long process, and I hope you don't have it. But like that's
even the Olympic trials, right?
Yeah.
Because you're so much focused just to even make the team. And then you're like kind of riding this wave, but you never really deal with the fatigue of the emotion from making the team or what the Olympic trials, the pressure of the Olympic trials. So then you finally get to the Olympics and you're like, yeah. But then there is like this coming down period. I mean, it's just incredible what you've done this year. And like, if you were, think back to when you first started running, like, what would you tell that young girl who started and was like, this sport sucks. I want to go back to hockey. Like, this isn't fun. This is like so different than being a hockey goalie, right?
Right.
What would you like if some young girl is coming from a totally different sport and she goes for a run, she's like, that sucks. Like, what would you say to her?
I would think I would tell her that running more than any other sport is one that you get out of it exactly what you put into it. So like you're able to find your limit so deeply and so personally for you, where like a team sport, you're kind of confined to how your teammates play also. So I'd go back and tell myself like the sky's the limit in this sport, and if you're willing to work hard, you can really get a ton out of it. And she would be like, I just took last in a JV race. I'm very embarrassed.
Yeah. But look at you now.
Well, we said 30 minutes. We've gone a little bit over. We really appreciate you giving us some of your time. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything that's coming up? Anything that you just want to talk about? And if not, I'm going to see if Kara wants to ask one more question. So either one. You can cut off.
I don't have anything to plug. I just joined Blue Sky, so you can follow me on there.
Mika.
Yeah. I do have one last question, which is just that I know you've been marathoning for a little while, but it seems like you're really at a new level and believing in this new level. You have said you are interested in running further. As your fan, like, what does this mean? Are we going to get to see like a lot more marathoning out of you? But then there's also a post-marathon career from Dakotah Popehn?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, if I hadn't made this Olympic team, I was planning on going for the 50K world record. So that might be on the horizon pretty soon. But
Nice.
you kind of gotta make hay while the sun shines. So right now, I'll probably be sticking to the marathon for quite a while. But I definitely think I show more promise in an ultra distance. It's just like nobody cares about the ultra as much. Like there's not a whole New York City marathon for an ultra, so it's going to be hard to make that transition truly. But who knows? I might dabble back and forth. Sorry, Des, I'm going to have to
I
swipe
hope
that
you
from you
do.
soon, I think.
I hope you do. I think that's how we make people care, is get in there and do something
Totally.
magical.
And I think like you have proven the longer it goes, the better you are. So, I mean, you're an Olympian in the marathon, so I don't think you should move away from the marathon. I'm not saying like move on,
Yeah.
but I think maybe you could reinvent the space a little bit, right? Like you have the street cred from being an Olympian. It'll be fun. I mean, that's Des got so much attention during fucking COVID. Like because
that's
we
the only
wanted to
reason
know
I
what
know
she
what the
was
world
doing.
record is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like there's attention to be had, you know? It'll be fun. But don't rush to it because we like seeing you in the marathon.
Maybe Des and I will go head to head in a 50K. That'll be
age graded?
No. No.
All right. We'll talk. We have our next marathons to line up. We got a 50K to line up, and then you're gonna have to come on down to the Fifth Ave maybe, and we'll get a mile going. We can hit the range.
That would be fun. It really would be because you have nothing to lose. Nobody cares if you run bad there.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time. We're so excited to have you on the show. We're so excited to see what you do next and to keep cheering for you while also being insanely competitive with you.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Dakotah. Okay, well, that was so fun having Dakotah. She is just been such a fun story to always follow, but especially this year, she's been so uplifting in the way she shared her story and her success. It's been so fun to follow. So that makes me think of Lever, who has been supporting us also throughout the year. And, you know, our whole thing with Lever is that they lift you up and we're trying to find moments and express what it means to us. But I think Dakotah was a great example of that, of someone that's just, you know, it's been so fun following her, right? And like she's just been racing with unabandonment and just really going for it. It's been really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I could have talked to her for another hour and a half. I had a list of questions and it crossed off like 3. But yeah, the number of marathons she's done, the way she's done it, she's a great athlete with a lot out in front of her. But not the 50K. She can wait on that.
She can take a beat.
Just wait.
Just slow your roll, Dakotah. Des is not ready yet.
Hold on.
Not ready yet.
The brakes. Yeah, exactly. Do you want to talk about some uplifting moments or do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay, I will. Because I'm going to piggyback on Dakotah. I think her story was great, but a lot of the women in New York this year had like a really good rebounding moment. Sarah Vaughn coming back after the Chicago illness and like just bouncing back and crushing was really quite fun to see. And I want to say it wasn't talked about enough, but it probably was. But we didn't talk about it at our TCS show, so I'm just going to mention that. And then I'll go with Alphine, who had a hamstring tear, a high hamstring tear last year. And she's like slowly been working her way back. I know she didn't get the race she wanted, but her and I like have been messaging a bunch and just figuring out ways to help each other. And so that was cool to see her out there and get to share those little moments kind of behind the scenes. So those are my uplifting athletes.
I like that. I'm going to actually go with my son. Yay. Who also, he does use the lever. So he has practice 3 days a week, but he started a few weeks ago doing a 2-mile run on the lever on Thursdays after school. And it's a way for him to run a couple more miles, but with the weight off. And I wasn't there this weekend, but he ran a regional race to qualify for nationals. And he ran like honestly the best race of his life. And it's like really cool to see him after what he went through. Like kind of finding his groove and finding his way in the sport. So that's sort of my uplifting moment of the.
Well, yeah, if we go back to like the pod after the incident and like kind of, I think we talked about his season and the trajectory and you're like, yeah, but it's not, you know, like it's kind of done now. So I keep seeing results post and I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Like and it's being really creative and being smart and make sure he's having fun, but also making sure he's like doing it in a healthy way. And I think that lever is kind of a natural thing to plug in. I think with I usually take 2 weeks totally off and sometimes almost 3 to 4. But I think I'm going to maybe try and latch onto that sort of builds back up protocol there. I was looking for the word there, but yeah, I think maybe doing second runs with the lever, or even just slowly getting into it and adding mileage and putting mileage back on with the lever and saying like, oh, I'll do this at 80%. And then when I come full return in 4 weeks, instead of taking another 2 where I just loaf around, I think that could speed things up. So excited to use that.
Sure. I'm excited to hear how that goes for you. We appreciate Lever for sponsoring us. We will drop our code in the show notes, 20% off a lever system if you want to try it. There's so much use for it. Coming back from injury, just adding extra mileage, building back slowly. With my dystonia, it's like a lifesaver. So anyway, we appreciate them supporting us. We love the uplifting moments. And we kind of want to thank someone else.
Yeah, this is the thankful segment.
This is the thankful segment.
Kind of heading into Thanksgiving, so sort of makes some sense. But yeah, I mean, I think TCS has been a great partner with us since the beginning, really. But we did a good number of TCS segments around the TCS New York City Marathon. Makes a lot of sense. And we appreciate them obviously supporting the pod, hosting the live show. And we did stay at their party for a really long time.
We were there for so long.
Thank you for the tequila, the chicken tendies, all the other things that we consumed. And they had heaters on.
Yeah.
So thanks for all of that. But also really in a bigger picture way, thanks for investing in the sport. Like we talk about TCS all the time. It's these little things here and there. But when Chris kind of said it and we zoomed out and we're like, wow, they like really touch on a lot of aspects of this endurance community.
Yeah. They don't just like put some money in just to like get their name out there. Think about it. They develop all the apps. They had new ways to help the broadcast this year with real-time technology and stuff coming back to the broadcast. They invest in athletes. You're a TCS athlete, Susanna Sullivan. Like they're invested in the fan experience, but also in the athletes themselves and in so many other things. So it's cool to see a company be like, oh, we want to get involved in running, but not just like pay a couple people a lot of money or pay us to talk about it or whatever, but to like truly be involved in the sport.
And they really are like, we got the joke of Nate from TCS, like, I mention him every now and then. He's a big runner, and then they made him the shirt that says Nate from TCS because that's what they call him on the pod. Well, this last weekend, I was at an event in Savannah, and I was at the finish line, and Michelle from TCS came up and was like, hey, you don't know me, but I'm Michelle from TCS, not as cool as Nate from TCS. So now she is as cool as Nate from TCS. But the point being, they're actually active in the community. It's not just like, here's the money, go do something. Right. It's like, we are runners. We see this. We see the value. We see the community. And we understand what this is like. So I love that. That's not just like, here's a company. It's like, we live and breathe and love running as well. So that's fun.
Well, we appreciate everyone who has supported us on this pod. It's helped us stay and not have to, like we talked about on an earlier podcast, we almost sold out to a bigger platform, but this has allowed us to continue to just do what we want to do. And we just appreciate all the support so much. So if you can support those brands, then we can keep doing this. And thanks everyone.
Good job. Good job downloading that app.
Yeah, good job.
Good job downloading that app. Saw good numbers.
And following Des.
Yeah. I was right behind the second Matt James. The mistake one.
The mistake. That is so funny.
It was a little depressing.
Okay. Well, do we want to talk about any breaking news in the sport before we go to a top 5 and let everyone get ready for the holidays?
I'm going to say we do. This is I guess maybe maybe not the best note, and you can poo-poo it if you want, but this wraps up TCS New York City Marathon. Full, complete coverage. Do you want to talk about Matt Choi?
I don't, but I think we need to.
Yeah.
I don't think he needs any more attention, but I also feel like it's weird if we don't, and so many people have asked our opinion on it. So did you know who Matt Choi was before this whole thing went down?
I like Matt Choi. I know him. He's a very nice guy.
Okay. So you know who he is. I'm just saying, like, maybe all of our listeners don't know because I actually don't really know who he is. Mm-hmm. I don't follow him. I don't know what his content is like, but he's well, you can probably explain better since you know him.
Yeah, I think he's what you would call a hybrid athlete, and he's kind of an influencer. Like, he's not a pro, but he shares his tips, his tricks, his training, what he's getting ready for next. Get ready with me, do my workout. He does some content around like helping people run their fastest mile, and just like goes out and runs it with them on the track. So he's pretty versatile, but lifting and running, and he's a former football player, so that's his platform. And I think you could call him an influencer without being like offensive. Like, that's not.
Yeah, I think he is an influencer, right? Like, he's and I don't follow him. I've heard of him, but I don't follow him, so I don't really know what his content is. But obviously, on all of my social media feeds after New York, everything was about Matt Choi and how he had a bike on the course and it was getting in the way of other people. And I actually, we might disagree on this one. I'm curious what your thoughts are about all of this. So if you haven't been following along, I don't know how you wouldn't have. If you follow any running content, everyone's talking about it. But he always creates content because that's what he does for a living, and about his New York City Marathon experience. And then he had people on the course with bikes taking video that were impeding other athletes. But like, bikes aren't allowed on the course for individual content creation anyway, or just on the course at all anyway. It's a safety hazard, right? If everybody had like someone on a bike, it would be a disaster. And even just having one or two bikes on the course, I mean, as we saw, when we were at the finish line, there's so many people are running hard. It's just a disaster. Yeah. So he had bikes out on one or two bikes out on the course filming him, and it got in the way of other people, and people were rightfully, I think, upset about it.
Oh, I totally agree. I think you should 100% be upset about it. And to take another step on that is he's done this before. Like, he had a camera crew in Austin, and it was like they were getting in the way. People are upset and they were dodging him. So he's been warned about it. And the rules are pretty clear in New York. It's not like this is a surprise.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I didn't know that he had done it before necessarily, but I knew that like that would be annoying. Like, I can't even imagine how annoying that would be. There's 50-some thousand people. It was a record-breaking finish. No one single person was more important than any of those other people. We went and watched Chris's athlete with Down syndrome finish the New York City Marathon for the second time. And it was just so freaking awesome. And like, no one, but she's not more important than anyone. It's like everybody out there has equal level of importance. So it definitely rubbed me the wrong way when I was reading about this. And then I went to his Instagram page and I saw a video where he's like, I fucked up. This is my fault. It's not my brother's fault. It's no one's fault but mine. And I thought, like, wow, like, what a refreshing take. Someone's actually just owning it and apologizing. And I wrote that. I was like, I really appreciate you taking accountability or whatever. And then people were like so mad at me. It was like wild over it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, and they were like, you don't know the background. You don't know the history. And you're like, and I'm like, you're right. I don't. I'm not saying I'm a fan. I'm not saying I'm not a fan. I'm just saying it was refreshing to hear someone be like right away, like, he got disqualified. He accepted that punishment. He didn't challenge it. And I'm not defending him because I'm finding out that it's a pattern. But I was like, wow, we are ready to fight on this. And I don't want to fight anyone. I was just like, thanks for apologizing. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of funny because I think maybe we will agree here. And I think he owned it. I don't think I would have released the video for content afterwards. Mm-hmm. Like, I maybe would have just gotten rid of those files and been like, okay, like, ownership is not getting the attention for this.
Right.
But I do think, and this is like pretty much seems to be a pattern, is when someone's down, it is so fun for other people to kick them while they're down. And I don't think you need to go on his page and be like, you're a we might have to educate. We might have to edit that. I don't think it's okay to go on his page and be like, you're an asshole. You're a bad person, yada, yada. Like, he owned it. He's banned from New York Roadrunner races. I don't think he's going to try and jump in them and like screw them somehow. Like, I think he took it on the chin, and that's what you want. Like, but you don't have to keep harping on him.
Right.
Like,
also, like, you just don't have to follow him. Like, I don't follow him.
Right.
You know, and I guess you were talking, it was making me think of something. Now I can't think of it. But just basically, like, he owned it. Maybe he shouldn't have made the video after and then like made a longer video, but like also that's what he does for a living. Oh, I know people will write in and be like, you guys are giving him more attention by talking about it. Yes, we're talking about it because you guys won't fucking stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Like if he apologized and we all just went okay and moved on, it would be done and dead, but it's not, because everyone like wants to make sure they know why he's so bad. And I'm not even saying he's not so bad. I don't know enough, and I'll admit I'm not willing to educate myself anymore on this. I'm like so over this situation. But I agree with what you're saying. Like sometimes it's like some of the comments that I saw were just so mean. And maybe he deserves it. I don't know, but it just kind of seemed like he's saying I'm sorry.
I think it's easy to kick someone while they're down. And like what I said that will probably need to be edited is actually like a comment that, you know, someone said to him. And it's like, like that's so unnecessary. Like
that's so unnecessary.
He's being punished. He doesn't need to be punished by every single person. Right. And, you know, I get it. If you're in the race and you're impeded, you're probably really, really annoyed. I totally understand that.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe that's a totally different scenario. But and maybe this was the solve, but there was a lot of influencers who just started early. Like, I don't know, at least he was willing to just run in the masses. Like Casey Neistat ran in the masses. He wasn't so good that he had to start 20 minutes before the actual race so that he could have a full road. And maybe that's what he needed. Maybe he needed to run that by them, but he was just trying to be a participant. He fucked up.
I mean, maybe everyone can take a deep breath and we don't have to film every little thing of our lives. And we don't have to, like, I'm not even talking about Matt specifically here. I mean, so many cameras and people with their cell phones out on the course, which is your right, I guess. But if you're running like this, you're also probably impeding someone.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, because you're not really paying attention. I don't know. I'm kind of like everybody, take a deep breath. And just enjoy the experience. You don't have to document every little second. I don't know. I'm feel like old.
This is going to turn us into elitists somehow.
Yeah, okay. I'm shutting
waiting
that down.
For that.
I want you to enjoy it. And I will say at the finish, people would pull out their phones and take a picture of themselves. And I thought that was really cool. Like, I did think that was cool because they're not impeding anybody at that point, right? But yeah, okay, maybe this is turning into elitist. I just want people to like run because they love running.
Right, not about showing everyone that
they ran.
You run.
Yeah. But that's just me, and I'm old school, and I don't run with a phone, and I am elitist, so maybe it's just me. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I've always liked Matt Choi. He's always been very nice to me, but I can understand being frustrated.
I just feel like this is my final thought on it. He apologized. We can only wait and see what happens. At this point, piling on doesn't help. Hopefully he moves forward and he realizes that it was very disrespectful to a lot of people and he's better moving forward. But at this point, there really isn't anything more he can do. And so we just have to sort of see what happens next. And you know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Before we make a big judgment about his character as a whole based on an event, let's just see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, okay, we talked about it. Done.
Good job. Good job. Anything else?
I do want to say that on New York. I don't think so.
Okay, go to your next thing.
I was just going to say that since we have talked about Grand Slam track on the pod, they finally have announced all of their stops. So that's kind of exciting if you're following.
What do you think of the venues? You excited? Are you going to go to Miami?
No, I'm not.
Did Miami surprise you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did it surprise you?
Yeah.
So the first one is Kingston, right? Then Miami, then
Penn,
and then it ends in LA, which LA was the one thing they said. But I got so confused because they talked about Drake. And I was like, what? They're going to Iowa? That I actually was like, that's awesome because they're going to bring all these huge stars to the Midwest. That is cool.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. They're not. They
didn't have the heart to correct you. I was like, maybe I'm reading this wrong.
I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like they're not even going to do LA. They're going to bring it to the heartland. Lies. But yeah, it's interesting to see it rolling ahead. It's pretty cool. I'm still caught up on the 3-day track meet, but we'll see what happens, how they package it, how they get these events over 3 days and what that looks like. But they have their dates and their venues locked down. So that's pretty cool.
Do you like this rollout? Like an athlete every couple days and a venue a date every couple, like, does it feel like we've lost steam more than anything? Or do you feel like it's like keeping the story moving along?
I mean, I guess it's keeping the story moving along, but I just want them to not do that anymore. And then hit me with, look at our field for this.
Yeah.
Look at our field for this, and then give me the breakdown on everyone. Like I'm sure you're on like the email chain and like every day something's announced and I'm like, I just give me one big one. When that 1500 meter field is filled, you give me that. When that 100 meter field is, is filled, you give me that. I don't.
Not day by day, one by
I
one.
don't need the day by day update. But I mean, hey, they're trying to like poke at you all the time. But yeah, I'm a little over getting the emails. Just give me the big old blast of what I'm going to see.
Yeah. And I still think we're waiting on the broadcast info. Like that will be.
There isn't any yet.
Big.
Yeah.
That'll be a big thing when they get that dialed. If they get that dialed, what that looks like.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Did we have anything else? I feel like that was.
Well, just the sadness that the night of 10,000 PBs is not going to happen in 2025, which is really only this. There's not very many opportunities anymore to run a 10,000. So taking that away, it's kind of a bummer.
So they said they wanted to give their volunteers a break. Does that check out with you? Do you feel like that's
it's one night, it's one meet, it's just 10,000s? I don't know because I've never been there, so I don't know the structure of it. But I feel like maybe that's the end of it. I mean, why? If you were going to take a year off, why would it be during a world championship year? Wouldn't you wait till an off year?
Yeah, the messaging seemed odd to me. Like, we got to figure some things out, and this is like maybe the right way to say it now. And if we can figure it out, we can come back. If not, but I'm reading into it, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, it's lit a fire under our ass to see if we can get shit together in time for 2025. So
it has. We'll
see.
We're on phone calls. We're sending emails. We haven't given up on that.
It's not given up. It's not, and it's actually not looking like it's impossible. It's just looking like it's going to take some work, but we haven't given up on it. And I think that reading that meet was dying really set us saying, hey, no, like now there's only one opportunity, and that opportunity is super important and it matters. That's the Sound 10 at the end of April, I believe. No, at the end of March.
I think.
At the end of March. So that is a super important event, but we just feel like, man, that's it. One and done. You get it there or you can't be a 10,000 meter runner. That seems crazy. So
yeah. How about roads? Do you think that's comparable? Like, do you think that should be an option?
I think it is a little bit because I was talking to a coach when I asked him if he would send athletes to our event, and he said absolutely he would. But he was saying that they were kind of looking at road ranking to get them in because they weren't sure if they were going to be ready for the 10.
Yeah.
And so he was looking at road opportunities. I don't like that. I'm not blaming that coach because if that's your way in,
no.
And because there are so few opportunities, I'm fine with it. But I don't like that because
it's
a road 10 and a track 10,000 are not the same event, not even remotely the same. And it's not even the same sport. Right. But I feel like the athletes are being pushed into that because they don't have other opportunity. But I don't like that.
I wonder if that's going to be the model. Like, we really eventually want to take the 10 off the track and just have it like paired up with marathons, 10Ks, make it a road.
Is devastating to me. Yeah.
Well, hopefully that's not, and we will do our tiny part by trying to host a 10,000 meter track race.
Okay, I'm trying to think. I think that's all the hot gossip. I haven't been paying as much attention.
No, we were on some downtime. I think that was necessary. Long track season, straight into marathons. New York was a doozy. So
you're about to head off on a trip now.
Yes, I got a vacation coming up. Headed to New Zealand. It's been great. People have been like, I heard you were going to go. What part? What are you doing? Here's some recommendations. So if you have any coffee recommendations in Wanaka, New Zealand, send them my way. Send them my way. Yeah.
Nice.
All right. Shall we do a top 5? You want to do an Olipop top 5?
I think we should. Yeah.
I think we're there. I think it's
It's time.
It's the time. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
You can start.
Okay. I used up 2 of mine already in the show.
We might have to bring them back.
All right.
I already used one.
So look at you writing them down though. That's great.
It's you. That's your influence.
All right. So after TCS New York City Marathon, I had a week in New York for a Brooks event and then another Brooks event, which if you want to use that first one, I think that's a good top 5. But I found this coffee shop completely randomly, and I just was going in to get like avo toast before I got actual lunch, which marathon, you're hungry. So I went in there and I got this cup of coffee, and I should look up the name, but I can't find it right now. And it was like one of the best cups of coffee I've ever had. It tasted like a bowl of fresh melon. Like, there was honeydew, there was watermelon, there was cantaloupe, like in this cup of coffee. It was delightful. And I loved it so much that I bought 4 bags. It's from a place called New York Coffee Project. So if you're in New York, go in there, check it out, ask for the cup that tastes like melon, and I think you'll like it. So that's part of my top 5.
Amazing. I love that one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay, I think the one you hinted at maybe could be our last one.
Okay.
I'm going to go with April Morgan, a listener of ours, who dyed her sweatshirt and put it on social saying, "I can't wear white." And I was like, damn, that's cool. And she's like, "Hey, I'll make you one." And I was like, seriously?
Yeah.
And so she made me a sweatshirt. Nobody asked this sweatshirt. And it's so cool. And it just made me think about our listeners are so cool. And we appreciate you guys so much. Like, what are we doing here? We're just chit-chatting. And we appreciate y'all so much. But a shout out to April Morgan especially, because she made me the coolest nobody asked me sweatshirt.
Yeah, it is really cool. I was very jealous. I'm not sure if she messaged me, but I was like, I'm not giving anyone my address. But most people find it anyways, which is fine too. But she probably was just like, Kara's cooler. Let me send it to Kara. But at the event I was at in Savannah over the weekend, there was a ton of people in merch. Like it was like a club out there, which is really neat. And so when you're like, have a bunch of people lining up to get stuff signed and you only have enough time, you're like, merch for sure, a book for sure, your bib if I have time.
Yeah, that maybe at the end.
So get that merch, y'all. All right. I'm going to go with fall marathon season as a whole. I thought it was really fun. It was, it's really hard to get good fields and get excitement going after the Olympics. Like, it's like, it wasn't very many people or everyone just looked flat. Like all of them are really great. And we do technically, we're still in fall. When does winter officially start? It's like super late, isn't it?
I don't know.
Depressing,
yeah.
Anyhow, fall marathon season rolls on. Valencia is coming up, and I think that'll be good because it's just such a fast course, and like people just go bananas there. I think it's mostly driven by prize money. Like I think they go heavy on the prize purse and light on the appearance. Just like come over if you want to win some money, run a PR, and hopefully that's a contract bonus. So that's kind of fun to see. So keep an eye on Valencia. And the marathon season in general was just great this year. I enjoyed it.
It's funny you say that because I just feel like it's done. But you're right. It's not. There's Valencia. There's CIM. There's still more to come. But my brain can't handle it. Mm-hmm. My brain's like, no.
Don't miss CJ Albertson, who's like, it's not over.
We're going to be talking about CJ again because he just entered CIM, right? So Sarah Hall's in Valencia, I think. So even though my brain feels like it's done, it's definitely not. But it has been a good year for marathoning.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. My last individual one is going to be that I just got back last night from a girls' weekend with girls that I met through running. And only half of us run anymore, but I met them all in high school because of running or skiing. Shout out to my friend Anna, who was like, you always say that and I never fucking run. I skied, but basically endurance sport, right? Because we were Nordic skiers. And I am very tired, but my cup is so full and I just appreciate them so much. So shout out to all of them, but also just that running brought these people into my life and it's pretty awesome. Like the only people that I like want to hang out with, I shouldn't say that. Most of the people that I want to hang out with, I met through running, like you, right? It's just like it brings the coolest people into your life. So just shout out to running in general, I guess, and my friends.
I like that. I can accept that.
Good.
No, that's great. Okay, do you want me to do the last one? Do you have
Yeah.
anything that's jumping out at you?
No, I was just thinking about what we did together in New York, but we don't have to say that.
No, okay, I'll put them both on the table and you can pick.
Let's just do them both. We can do 2 things.
No, it's Olipop will fire us. You did 6? More is not better.
We can't pay you a bonus.
Yeah. All right, seriously. We actually make per, no, that's not true. Okay, let me go and then you wrap up with the other one because I think that's a good way to do it. Okay, I'm gonna go with a little Lindsey Vonn out of retirement back on the circuit. I think that's so fun. I think it's so hard for athletes to stay retired. Like they just get antsy and they're like, I can fucking do that. We're going to find out. I think it's just really cool that she's taking a shot at it. And I can't wait to watch.
I know. We had some intel earlier that was happening. So it was cool to finally see the announcement. But I love Lindsey Vonn. I remember watching this documentary on her and the way she would like always get injured and always claw her way back. That is wildly relatable to me. Probably most of us. I'm not a downhill skier. That is zero relatable to me. But like just the way she's like, oh fuck, and then she just, totally should be over, and then works her way back. So seeing her come out of retirement is really
she's a
exciting.
Freaking monster. Yeah.
Yes, I'm super excited about that. Okay, good. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Like, way to go. Okay, so the last one is actually both of us together, but we got to do something a couple Mondays ago where after the New York City Marathon, Brooks supports Marathon Kids, and Chris is a big part of Marathon Kids, just so happens to be. This isn't a shout out for Chris, although he's great. I'm tired. But we got to go to an elementary school and run with, I think it was like 133 kids.
That's too many.
4th graders. We did cause a ruckus because we tried to have everyone put their hands in her for a high five, and they all went in at the same time and fell. It was terrible, but it was so cool. These kids were awesome, and it was seriously like the perfect, because I left for the airport from there. You were still there for another week or whatever. But for me, it was the perfect way to leave New York with these kids. They were so excited about running, a bazillion high fives, a bazillion shoelaces that needed to be tied. These kids challenging us to races. It was so fun.
Push-up contest. Stare-offs. Like, oh, no, you're tougher than me. 100%. We can't compete.
It was so fun, though. It was awesome. And I was like, oh, what a perfect way. And how cool to support these kids and introduce running to their lives so young in a way that's not about competition, not about time, but about how it makes you feel. It was so cool. I loved it.
Yeah. And just one more little quick hit on that. It was not about a punishment.
Right.
Like they were so stoked. You're like, do you want to run? Yeah. How fast are you going to go? So fast. Like, It wasn't like, hey, you messed up at football. You got to go run a lap. Like it wasn't punishment. And I think that's such a huge thing, like to be introduced in a way that it's positive and it's fun. And hopefully that connects in that way for a really long time.
Yeah. So. Shout out. That was super fun. Thank you, Brooks and Marathon Kids, for allowing us to do that. It was really awesome.
All right. Well, I think that's our Olipop top 6. Second invoice coming your way.
Second invoice.
Thanks for listening to those, and check out the show notes for coupon code to get 15% off Olipop.
I believe so. Yeah.
It's been a while since we've actually said that, but yeah, that's been there. And check out the show notes. And Olipop's great. They've been a great sponsor, and they're just delicious. So recommend. All right. I think that wraps it up for the day. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.